ग्लोबल स्किल डेवलपमेंट मिशन में आपका स्वागत है।
All right, the first principle of graphic design that I want to take a look at, and that is the organization of the information that you want to have inside your layout. And arguably, this could be the most important lesson in the entire course. It's really the bedrock of proper communication and all that problem solving that, of course, we discussed previously. So here we go. Here's a flyer of some sort. Perhaps we're given a flyer in our mailbox, or we're walking down the street and someone hands us a flyer. Consciously or unconsciously, the first question that we have is, what is it? What is this for, and why should I care? And you know what? I'm looking at this, and the more my brain has to process what this is and why I should care and what it's for, the harder my brain has to work, the less interested I become. Have you ever experienced this in life? And you know what? Most ads, most flyers ask too much of the viewer. It's up to you and I as the viewer to determine what the heck it is that we're actually looking at. You know, I have a really quick story. This happened to me yesterday, believe it or not. I'm in the middle of my workday and someone came to my front door, knock on the door. So I go and answer the door. And the woman at the door has a backpack with her filled with books. She looks almost like a teenage schoolgirl almost. Instantly, my brain is processing, who is this person? Why are they at my door? Are they in distress? Do they need help? Is there some kind of an emergency? Are they trying to sell me something? I have no idea. And she says to me, are you the man of the house? Or she said something like, you no doubt are the hardworking man of the house, something like that. And I said yes. And she said, that's wonderful. And then she introduced herself and kind of looked at me blankly. And I said, is there something I can help you with? What can I do for you? And she said, well, we're just going through your neighborhood. We're trying to help people out. And she continued with sort of this blank look. And the longer this went on, the less patience I had. I try really hard to be patient and to not be a mean person, but I'm in the middle of my workday. I've got tons of things to get to, lots of email to reply to, just like everybody else. And the longer this went on, as I say, the less patience I had and the more infuriated I got. Eventually, it got to the point where I said, what is it that you want? What can I help you with? And it turned out that she was selling textbooks, and I wasn't interested. I said, no, thank you, I'm not interested. Then she pressed even harder, making me have to work harder to get rid of her so I could get back to what I was trying to do. And I was thinking of this exact scenario that I was put into yesterday, and no doubt you've been in a similar situation, and applying that to graphic design and applying that to building a layout, building an ad, building a website, whatever it might be, to visually communicate exactly the same thing. If she had have just come out and said exactly what it is that she was there for and how she could help me, then I would have been more receptive. So it's the same thing. We're handed this ad here, and instantly my brain has to go to work. 123 Major Highway Avenue, and then a telephone number, and then please RSVP. And I'm going, what is this? What is this for? Why should I care? Why was I given this? And so on. So let's now take this information and rearrange it just a little bit. I'm just going to slide over to the right just a little bit. Now, this is exactly the same information. It's just rearranged a little bit. So once again, we're handed this in our mailbox or on the street. Instantly, I go, what is this for? What is it, and why do I care? Well, at the very top, usually we read top to bottom, it says, please RSVP by July 20th. So that tips me off that this is some kind of an event or some kind of a party or some kind of a get-together, but it's still making me work way too hard to figure out exactly what this is. I don't find out until down towards the bottom half of this layout that it's a surprise birthday party for someone named John. Okay, so I've had to work way too hard for all of this. So let's continue moving over towards the right. Here's the third example that we have. Again, all the same information. All I've done is I've simply restructured the information. I've changed the way that the information is organized. This is much better. You're invited to John's surprise birthday party. Oh, John, I know John. He's a great guy. And it says, please RSVP by July 20th. There's the address, there's the date, and there's a telephone number. I'm given all the information that I need, and right off the bat, I'm told exactly what it is. So in other words, right off the bat, this particular layout has answered the question, what is it? Why should I care? What is this for? It's for John's surprise birthday party. I'm told that right off the bat. Oh, okay, great, got it. Now, the problem that I have with this is that there's too many separate elements inside the layout. We want to avoid having too many separate elements inside of our page or inside of our layout, whatever that layout might be. So I'm going to slide over to the next example here. All I've done is I've taken, again, the same information, and all I've done is I've decided to structure it or group it together. This gives the reader or the viewer an instant visual cue as to how the information is organized. We instantly create order inside the layout. Previously, especially that first example, we had chaos. Now we have order and structure. The proximity of these various layout elements, and they're just simple text elements, of course, implies some kind of a relationship. So, for instance, what I mean by that is at the very top it says, you're invited to John's surprise birthday party, and then there's a telephone number. So, because these two are placed in close proximity, we're implying to the reader or to the viewer that these two items are connected in some way. And the same holds true for the content down towards the bottom. We have the address, the date, and the please RSVP date. We're putting these three elements together, and that implies that they are somehow related to one another. Okay? So, group elements together in some kind of a logical order. That's really the point that I'm trying to make here. Elements that are intellectually connected should be visually connected. But can we organize this layout in a better way? Is there a better way to structure this particular layout that makes more sense logically? Absolutely. I'm going to move over to the fifth example now. Now what I've done here is I've said, all right, you're invited to John's surprise birthday. That answers the question, what is this? What is this for? Why should I care? And I've then taken the same information and structured it in a more logical fashion. So this is what it is. This is when it is. This is where it is, and then some additional information. So items that are not related to each other should not be in close proximity to one another. And the other point that I want to make here is that the information should be structured from the most important piece of information to the least important piece of information. So in other words, what is it? That's the most important piece of information. And then way down at the bottom, we have the RSVP telephone number, the least important piece of information. Now, another issue that I want to bring up here is where is our eye led? As the viewer, where is our eye led? Well, if you were handed this or if you pulled this out of your mailbox, instantly you'd look up here, then you'd look down here, then you'd look back up here, and then maybe you'd look back down here, and then you might actually read all the information. Have you ever paid attention to this when you look at an ad or you look at a magazine layout or something? Where is your eye led? It's a really cool exercise. Usually what happens is viewer's eye bounces around a little bit inside the layout to kind of get an overall sense of the layout, sort of scanning the overall layout, and then we go back and actually read the content to understand exactly what it is. So something like this, my eye personally is led to the top, then down to the bottom, then back to the top, then back down to the bottom, and then finally I go back to the top and I read exactly what it is, and then I go back down to the bottom and I find out some additional information about this particular event. So I hope that makes sense. Now what you can do is you can control the path of the eye if you want to. So perhaps doing something like this. So what is it? It's John's birthday. When is it? Then our eye is going to bounce towards the center and then down towards the bottom. So for yourself, where was your eye led when you first looked at this, when I first pulled this up on screen? Likely what happened is your eye went from the top to the center to the bottom and then back to the top. Or possibly what happened is your eye went from the top right to the bottom, back to the middle, and then possibly back to the bottom or back to the top. So your eye's bouncing around inside the layout. Okay? In any regard, I hope this is making sense. Now, here's a quick metaphor that I have for you related to organizing information. We've all been to family get-togethers, we've all been to parties, we've all been to wedding receptions, things like this. What's really interesting about these sorts of events is you instantly know what people fall into what groups. Let's say you're a stranger and you walk into a wedding reception and you just look around the room. Instantly you know who's friends with who. The older generation usually groups together. The young kids are always running around playing with each other. So as social creatures, we naturally group together with other people that we're comfortable with. Now think about this when you're actually laying out a design. We want to apply the same approach. We want to naturally group content together that makes sense, that naturally fits together. Here's an even simpler example for you. Earlier on, I said that graphic design was a lot like putting together a puzzle, and a lot of times people will just dump out all the puzzle pieces and move them around on the page until they kind of look good. Well, rather than just moving chaos around, if that makes sense, why not start to create some kind of order, some kind of structure? At least in this example, it's a little bit more structured than the previous example where we started over here with these blocks on the left. So there's a little bit more structure here, but we could take this idea of structuring the information and we could take it even further. We could do something like this. Now with something like this, instantly, even though we have 3 different colors at play, you and I know that the information here on the left, or the content, or the colored blocks on the left-hand side are related to one another and are unrelated to the blocks that we have over on the right. Okay, we just know that instinctively or instantly when we look at the layout. Even though we don't have all the same colors grouped together, the blocks being grouped together implies that relationship. And we could do something like this. We could move some content over to the right. Now the 4 blocks on the right are somehow connected. We don't know exactly how. It could be the information that they contain or the type of content that they contain. Maybe it's photographs or something like this. And they're separate. They're completely different from the information or the content that we have over on the left-hand side. Now, of course, if we really want to create structure and order, what we could do is we could start to group things together based on the type of content that we have. So in my quick example here, using these colored blocks, we could structure it something like this. Okay? So what I'm trying to really nail down here for you, and why I think this is the most important exercise in the entire course, is I really want to encourage you to see your designs and see your layouts from the viewer's perspective. Again, think of yourself. Don't come at it from your perspective. You know all about your business or the ad that you're creating the business for. You know how the business works. You know about the products. You know about what payment methods you accept. All these different pieces of information. You know that already, but the viewer doesn't. So the best way that I've discovered to overcome this is I use myself as my own guinea pig. So I imagine that I'm being handed this flyer and I go, what is this for? So my first question when I'm building a layout is, what is it? I'm trying to see it from the viewer's perspective. What is it and why should I care? And then I might start asking questions if I'm interested. For example, I know John and I'm really excited that he's having a surprise birthday thrown for him. Then I want to know, when is it? Or where do I go to get it in the case of a product? If it's a product that I want, where do I go to get it? And then I might ask, how much does it cost? These are really fundamental, basic questions. From there, we might start to get a little bit nitty-gritty. Is there an RSVP? Do I need to phone ahead of time? What methods of payment do they accept? Again, in the case of a product, how long will it take for the product to ship to me? What's their return policy? These sorts of things. Now, you can get more and more and more refined, but really the fundamental issue is, what is it? Why should I care? When is it? Or where do I go to get it if I'm interested? And how much does it cost? That's usually sort of the fundamental questions. Next time you're walking down the street and you see a sign or a billboard or some kind of a placard out on the sidewalk, you'll find yourself asking these questions, and they're fundamental questions to graphic design.